afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Governor's Youth Commission Education Workgroup's third and final webinar for our Postsecondary Education Readiness series, which aims to increase education equality throughout Arizona. My name is Anthony Acator Jr., and I am a member of the Education Workgroup. Today, we'll cover topics like alternative and non-traditional post-secondary options, including programs and personal experiences that will prepare Arizona students to pursue a career they're passionate about.
And my name is Miranda Gu, also a member of the Education Workgroup, and we will be facilitating today's webinar. Our speakers today have knowledge and expertise in career and technical education, most commonly known as CTE. We appreciate them taking time out of their Sunday afternoon to join us and support all students across Arizona. At any time during today's webinar, attendees are free to send their questions in the Q&A chat box at the bottom of their screen, and we will cover them during the Q&A portion at the end of the webinar.
We will now allow our speakers to introduce themselves and tell us more about their organizations and roles. We will begin with our Arizona Department of Education speakers, starting with Mr. Kevin Imes, then with Ms. Kylie Chambly, and wrapping up with Ms. Hannah Lindecker before moving into questions. Kevin, please take it away.
Thanks, Anthony. My name is Kevin Imes. I'm the State Director for Career and Technical Education. My official position is the Deputy Associate Superintendent for the state of Arizona and the Arizona Department of Education.
Hi there, everyone. My name is Kylie Chambly. I am what is called a program specialist, also known as a state supervisor for all of the family and consumer sciences and education and training programs here in the state of Arizona.
And my name's Hannah Lindecker, and I'm a current student at Northern Arizona University, but I currently serve on the Arizona FCCLA STAR team.
Thank you for introductions. Let's get started. Starting with Kevin, to fully understand CTE and its role in education, can you first explain what it is and the difference between a CTE and a traditional school?
Sure. Career technical education has two primary missions, Miranda. One is to provide students opportunity to earn an industry certification as a result of learning technical and industry skills. The second mission is to promote and contribute to economic development. It's a little bit different from traditional classrooms in the fact that students' experiences within CTE are designed to simulate the experiences for which a student would have when they were entering into industry. The goal of a CTE program and an ideal CTE program would be when students are attending the class, and then after they've graduated through the program and completed the program, they would enter directly into the workforce, and it would be seamless. It would be as if they don't notice any difference, that they've done what they've done in the classroom or in the field or in the laboratory, and then when they enter into the industry field, they would notice no difference. They would already have those experiences, and they would have an expectation of what would to become within the industry.
Thank you very much for that very in-depth answer. Kylie, I'll have you jump in here as well. Based on Kevin's answer, can you explain the difference between a CTSO and a CTE program so we are all on the same page?
Yes. So there's a big difference, and it's more that they are in collaboration with each other. So I'll start with the CTE program. Arizona currently has about 67 different CTE program options across the state, varying from culinary arts to health services to automotive to bioengineering. There's a whole wide range of different opportunities, as well as 31 programs that we consider local occupation programs. So specific programs also would, and I'll share the slides with you all. The specific programs, again, are tailored to the needs of the community and what's available in that community. And so I will, if you can you all see my screen here? Okay, great. So I want to just show this screen here. So here's a list again of the 67 different programs. I will not read them all for you, but you can get a good glimpse at what we have available. The difference there with the programs is the program is a 2-year sequence. Let me back up here. Sorry. It's a 2-year sequence for most of the programs, 2 to 3 years. Some, very rare, are 4 years. But every student in the CTE programs has a specific amount of things that they do in their program. So for sure, we work with industry partners to be sure that the students get support in relation to that program from knowledgeable partners in the community and businesses, as well as working on credentials or certifications that they want, that the industries want you to be prepared with. And you get all of these and work-based learning opportunities, hands-on opportunities in these programs within those 2 years. I kind of like to think about it as things that you would take in college, because a lot of these are dual credit, so you can earn college credit as well with most, not most, but majority of the programs have opportunities in different parts of the state to get college credit or dual credit. So you can work through these in tandem with the colleges or just independently through the high schools, as well as CTEDs, those career and technical education centers that we have across Arizona and the U.S. And when we're talking about the CTSO, if anybody's familiar with these logos or these organizations, CTSO is a career and technical student organization, and Hannah will share more with us later about that. But these are the different CTSOs that are aligned with those programs. So all of the programs that you saw, of course, there's a scope and sequence. There are standards that are developed by our industry partners that the students learn throughout those courses of the 2 years. And then the CTSO, which you see here, are the opportunities for students to get leadership opportunities, the hands-on learning. They do a lot of competition. So FCCLA, which is one that I support through the Family and Consumer Sciences and Education and Training departments, is that, the culinary students are doing like baking and pastry competitions or cooking full meals and getting graded on it. That those in HOSA get to work with, that's the Health Occupation Student Association. So they get to work and practice, all of the bandaging and wrapping, first aid, CPR. You have FFA, the Future Farmers of America, really get to learn about agriculture and so on. So all of these different CTSOs align with our 12 different career clusters that we have. And they are really to support the hands-on learning and to really emphasize the standards and the skills that are learned through those programs. And really, again, emphasizing the student leadership opportunities that you get to have in there and really taking ownership of your skills through these programs. So they do work together, even though they are separate entities.
Thank you very much for your insights. I'm personally actually part of DECA, and I never knew that was considered a CTSO, so very good to know. And then one final clarification, what is the difference between CTE programs and your standard elective class?
Sure. So just like I said, with the CTE program themselves, it's usually a 2-year sequence. So with a elective class, and as you all are familiar, or if you've been in middle school or high school, you have like a very short either quarter or semester class with an elective. And really it's just kind of to get a taste of things and have fun if you like it, if they're art class, if they're gym, etc. But if you're taking a full career and technical ed program, you want to strive to complete a full 2-year program and to then again, you get to earn credentials, you get to participate in the CTSOs, and it's again, you just get a lot more experience with leadership and working with industry partners. And so it's a little bit, I'll say a lot of it more in depth. And if you are somebody who's interested, in say theater, then we have something like stagecraft, where you can take stagecrafting for a full 2 years and learn a lot about the lighting, about construction and building sets, but as well as get to engage in the musical side of it. So it has a lot of opportunities in the different programs, and it's more than just that quarter or semester than an elective.
Thank you. And then Kevin, I know Kylie mentioned some certificates and credentials. Are you able to name any specific ones that one could earn in a CTE program?
Boy, Miranda, there are, of all the programs that we have, there's over 680 different certifications. So anything from the a medical assistance, a phlebotomy certification, to the NCCER. There's certifications for automotive, aircraft, welding, veterinary sciences, culinary arts. There's all kinds of certifications that are very unique to the programs. Probably those that would be most familiar would be those that would be in the construction trades. You can see that there are some within the engineering, fashion, merchandising, finance. So if you wanted to do some accounting, fire service, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, I mentioned. So there are over 600, and I think there's actually 684 different certifications, depending on the specific program for which a student may be interested in involved.
Wow, I never knew there were that many. Given that, how does CTE prepare students for successful careers in various industries, including those traditionally associated with college degrees?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. So, a lot of the college degrees are career and technical education degrees. And so those CTE programs are very well aligned with those skills and the knowledge that a student would need in order to be able to graduate with a degree in a particular field. So for uh, engineering, for example, would be a program that we offer, and there's several certifications within that. Um, so they're very well aligned with preparing those students for a college degree. I think that it was mentioned earlier that many of the programs for which students are enrolled offer dual credit. So by the time that a student has completed a program, they are often earned 6, 9, 12, 15 college credits in some cases, getting them a head start within their post-secondary education. So it's not necessarily the certification, but it's those dual credit opportunities for which students are able to earn.
All right, thank you. And then back to Kylie, what does it mean to be a CTE program completer?
Yeah, sure. So I was trying to avoid that because I knew that was a question earlier. So again, and kind of emphasizing the difference of elective versus CTE program. To be a program completer means that you were a student that finished the full sequence of that program. So I'm going to always refer a lot to my program. So say I'm a student in hospitality management and I was interested in working for a hotel or recreation or front of house, right? A small cafe or something. And I take hospitality management, then I want to be sure at my high school that does offer that program that I take the full 2-year sequence of that program. And it can be a little confusing because depending if your high school has a 55-minute block schedule or a 90-minute block schedule, you could potentially complete a year or level one in a semester or in a full year. So every school is a little bit different, but again, there still is 2 levels to most programs or 3. So meaning again that you completed all the levels in your program, level 1 or 2, and potentially 3 and 4 if there's others that do go a little bit higher. But you want to at least complete the first 2 levels, and then we take what's called a TSA, a technical skills assessment. And a lot of people are confused. They're like, what does that mean? So if you think of the ACT in high school for your academics, I like to compare that to the TSA. So every program has what's called a TSA, and they are basically taking an exam on all of the standards that they were to learn in their program, in their 2-year program. And so, for example, culinary has about 12 standards that they work throughout those 2 years. And then after the 2-year program, or sometimes within the first year, the students will take the TSA to basically take the assessment. So to be a program completer, you must complete that full 2-year sequence as well as have a passing score on the TSA as well. So that is that one. And then the difference again from being in an elective, you wouldn't take a TSA in an elective course.
And with all of that in mind, Hannah, I'll have you answer these next few questions. What was the deciding factor for you to pursue a CTE program while you were in high school?
So before I got into high school, I went to a really small charter school in my town, and we didn't have like any electives. We didn't have like any of that kind of stuff because we were super small. So when I got to high school and I saw that there was an option for the program that I was in, which was early childhood education, I was completely on board. I was like, sign me up right away. Um, Unfortunately, my high school didn't really let freshmen in. So I did have to go talk to a teacher to be let in when I was a freshman in high school, but it immediately drew my eye in because in my small town, we didn't have a lot of CTE programs. And at my school specifically, we only had two, which was early childhood and culinary. And for anyone that knows me personally, I cannot cook to save my life. So I knew that that probably was not the right place for me. But I loved working with kids, and I had actually volunteered at that same daycare at that high school when I was growing up. So I did have a close relationship working with those kids already. So it was just a super unique opportunity to be able to do that in high school. And I knew that there was a lot of certifications that I could get and trainings that I could take that would help me in my post-secondary education.
Thank you. And then the next one is, do you see that decision benefiting you now in college? And if so, how?
It definitely has benefited me a ton. Like Kylie had said, with being a program completer, and kind of what Kevin had touched on, there's a lot of certificates that you can get while you're in these programs. And I was very lucky to earn my CDA when I was a junior, which is a Child Development Associate credential. And it has helped me land countless opportunities, especially when I was trying to find a job when I moved from my hometown because I had no idea where I wanted to work. And a lot of childcare centers or daycare centers will look for people that have those certificates already that a lot of adults usually don't even have yet. So that was something that kind of made me stand out being relatively young going in for a new job. And in my degree, when I decided that I wanted the early childhood certificate, I'd been able throughout a lot of my classes and getting ready to start practicum in the fall, getting ready to like kind of already have a head start on some of the classes because at the university I attend, they will make you take the introduction classes again. So being in some of them, I'm kind of like, oh, I already know this stuff. Like I kind of already have a good idea of what's going on. So that's definitely benefited me a lot and helped me to not fall behind in those classes because sometimes when I know for me when I first came to college I was a little overwhelmed, and sometimes when you have like a really busy workload, I'm technically above a full-time student, so I take like 16 to 18 credits every semester, and so that's a lot of academic workload on top of trying to balance out everything else. So having those basic understandings and that program knowledge already has been really helpful.
Besides already having some of that program knowledge, was there anything else that helped you balance your CTE program with schoolwork and other obligations?
So I was also a part of a CTSO called FCCLA, and I did that I actually, at my school, my small town, I was able to I started when I was in 8th grade, and I paid like my full way to be able to do it because my charter school obviously didn't have one. And I will say that like I had a really supportive advisor that was also like, of course, was the CTE teacher, and she helped us through everything. So like every little challenge, everything. Like sometimes when I received more leadership roles the older I got that I ran for, I would get really overwhelmed sometimes because it's a lot, and it is a lot, especially on a high schooler and somebody that is like my junior year when I was elected as the state president, I was going into my junior year of high school, so I just got a little bit older. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but that was also the same time I was supposed to start thinking about what I wanted to do for the future. And so sometimes it can get really overwhelming, and I was really involved in my school and a lot of other things, but I always had a really good support system from my advisor and my teachers. But I also just always, and I still do to this day, I use a Google Planner and an agenda everywhere I go. If I don't, I guarantee we'll miss something, almost guarantee. But those were just things that worked for me. and help me balance my obligations in my personal life and in my professional life as I got a little bit older.
I totally agree that Google Calendar is a complete lifesaver. All right, and then to kind of finish this section off, would you recommend participating in a high school CTE program before attending one in your post-secondary journey?
I definitely, like, through and through, always recommend participating in a CTE program. It was something that definitely gave me an edge and a little bit more knowledge about what I wanted to do, because my freshman year of high school, even though I was taking ECE, I told myself that I wanted to be a lawyer, and I learned quickly that I really didn't want to be a lawyer, and that, like, working with young kids was where my heart was at, especially that birth to 5 age group of early childhood. And so it was just being able to do that really helped me on the path that I am to get my degree that I'm in now. And then I also just think that it also provided a sense of home, like that CTE class and the kids that I went through the program with, we all really became really close. And to be able to have something that we all loved that was really unique compared to a lot of other elective classes was a really cool experience that I think you get when you're in.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that really thoughtful student perspective. I wanted to transition now to programming. And now that we have the basics down, we should discuss what pursuing a CTE pathways entails and the future career prospects of such programs. So I want to take it back to Kevin and really, I guess, contextualize the point. Student debt is a huge concern regarding post-secondary education, and not all students are eligible for the FAFSA, often leading them to seek other financial aid options such as student loans or grants. For students interested in pursuing CTE, are there scholarships or grants available?
The thing about CTE is they're free. There are free courses. There's no charge for tuition. They're offered as a result of the public education high school or a charter school. So there is no tuition. There may be a fee associated with some programs, but in general, it's not the type of thing for which students would have to pay to be able to attend a CTE program.
Are the fees usually relatively manageable?
They are. Sometimes they're comparable to maybe another elective course or programs such as band or art and ceramics. At some point, though, if you're taking a CTE course at a C10, which is a career and technical education district, some people may be familiar with EVIT or WestMAC, which are all career and technical education districts that they teach only CTE courses. They don't teach math, science, social studies, those core subject areas. Those fees could be a little bit more, simply for the fact because the program is more intense and it would require more materials in order for those students to develop the skills. The aviation program at WestMAC, for example, requires special tools for which students would need to work on aircraft. And so those fees oftentimes would pay for those specialized tools. Obviously, the students would keep the tools at the end of their program. So most of the associated fees that go towards materials or specialized equipment, oftentimes the students are able to, they're purchasing those materials to take with them after they've completed the program. So the fees are certainly manageable. There are scholarships, there are fee waivers. Again, they're like a public high school district. And so there's financial assistance that are associated with each one of those as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Now transitioning back to Kylie, could you talk more about programs available throughout Arizona and what career clusters these opportunities offer?
So yes, I did jump ahead a little bit earlier, but these are the lists again of the career clusters that we have here in Arizona. Well, this is the common career clusters. There are technically 16, usually throughout the United States, but this is the structure that Arizona has clustered our programs together. And you can again see the different lists of the programs that we have available, and kind of elaborating a little bit on what Kevin was also talking about with his question was I want to be clear that in Arizona, and in CTE in general, there's the high school career and technical ed, and then you have your traditional post-secondary or collegiate levels of CTE programs. And for example, you could go to the Culinary Arts Institute here in Arizona and pay, if you didn't take CTE in the high school, you would pay about 27 to 30,000 in tuition as an adult entering into that program for the collegiate level. And of course, there's FAFSA available, just like any other college program for traditional programming, and NCTE, or vocational education, as a lot of people call it as well. But for another example is if you're a culinary arts student at the high school, you get to receive very relatively close knowledge and skills and standards that you would get at the collegiate level, but you're obtaining them through high school free of charge. Again, like Kevin mentioned, because those are part of grant funding that, and they're offered to all students in that district, whoever takes those programs. So there is, a relative tuition to career and technical ed, but in our programs here and what we have available at the high schools for CTE, they are free of charge.
Understood. Thank you so much. It seems like there seems to be like a very robust set of programs for CTE.
Absolutely.
Yeah. At any rate, now coming back to Kevin, to understand why CTE programs are important for students' future, what role do CTE programs play in addressing workforce demands and filling skilled labor gaps in today's economy, maybe in particular to our local and state economy?
Well, that's a great question, because one of the things that we do is we just don't simply start a program because we think that it's cool or fun. Each one of those programs are based off of the labor market analysis. And so the last thing we would want to do is to offer a program and for students to be able to take that and then for there no place for them to be able to go at the end. As mentioned before, the goals of CTE is for students to earn those skills and earn industry certifications and make a contribution to the economic development of Arizona. So each one of those programs are highly aligned to the needs of industry based off of different state agencies. One is called the Office of Economic Development. They do a study for us in predicting the economic needs for the state of Arizona in regard to employment. So all of our programs are based off of the industry needs. We have our programs, and Kylie would be able to speak to those two, advisory boards, which are made up of industry and business experts telling us and guiding us and helping us to realize the skills students need to have in order to be able to enter that industry, and the things that are happening with that industry in order for us to be flexible and nimble and be able to offer programs to meet those economic demands. So they're all based off of labor market indexes and data across the state of Arizona.
Thank you. And it seems that these CTE programs can even help boost our economic development, which I think is really important. So thank you again, and I'll pass it off to Miranda now.
Continuing with Kevin, what common misconceptions about CTE do you encounter among students and parents, and how do you address them?
Yeah, that's a great question too. There's a phrase out there that's called career and technical education, and people are thinking that it's career or college ready, and it's not. It's college and career ready, meaning that students that complete a CTE program are more likely to enter with success into a post-secondary education compared to those students that had not completed a CTE program. So students in career technical education are more likely to graduate with an associate's degree if they enter that program and complete that program. So actually, career technical education is preparing students to become more successful in their post-secondary endeavors. The other misconception travels back or goes back several years. Career technical education CTE used to be called vocational education. And many people had the idea that vocational education was about automotive and construction and woodworking and heavy labor types of jobs. And although that it still consists of those programs, the additional programs in today's CTE, along, if you would want to refer back to the old name of vocational education, are more into computer animation, aircraft maintenance, cyber criminology, health-related occupations, robotics, artificial intelligence is starting to emerge as one of the programs. So one of the misconceptions is that, one, we're just preparing students for a career, not really preparing them for college, and that's not true. And that it's only what would be traditionally called a blue collar workforce, and that's not true as well. Many of the occupations for which people are highly successful and no longer require a college education, but a certification, and those certifications are earned through a career technical education program.
Thank you very much for clearing up some of those misconceptions. And then a question for all of the panelists, starting with Hannah, and then Kylie, and then Kevin. What opportunities exist for students in CTE fields to continue their education beyond their initial education, such as through apprenticeships or advanced certifications?
So, kind of how I had mentioned earlier, the CDA is like the main certification, at least that was offered at my school, through our CTE program, and we had to have 400 plus hours of working with young children, like 8 lesson plans, 6 statements, or 6 like philosophy statements, and then like an overall, like I think it was like 2 or 3 pages philosophy statement with a 2-hour observation. And a lot of other trainings, like I think up to like 8 trainings or something like that. So by the time that I was done, and the way our school did it, that was considered our level 3. So even though we were program completers, that was what we considered our level 3, was people that were working to earn their CDA. And by the time you were done with that, you basically almost have like it reminds me a lot of more of a personal philosophy of your own, but also a lot of pre-written lesson plans that can be implemented into the classroom with a lot of trainings and certificates with it. So like our diapering training, hand washing. Our school didn't require it, and neither does the CDA, but you can have like food handlers in there if you're doing like snack time with the kids, anything like that. So those were like just like a unique opportunity that we offered. But they also offered the year before I graduated. Sadly, they didn't do it when I graduated, but the Parapro assessment, which is where you can be an assistant in a classroom. And that was another certification that a lot of adults don't even really pass. And that our high school was pretty proficient in passing those kids when they completed the CTE program as a whole. So those were just things that we had at our high school that I took advantage of, that have definitely helped me as I got up here in Flag, because a lot of the daycare and childcare centers, like I said, won't even hire without any prior experience or without any sort of certification in the field, just because you are working with the youngest humans, right? So they want to make sure that they're not just throwing you in there and that you don't know what you're doing. So yeah.
Yes, and kind of to clarify what I was saying earlier, I don't want people to confuse if with my culinary example. So, say you do, you are a program completer in the culinary arts program in one of your schools, but then you do want to go on to college, right? Then you are basically a little bit more advanced, maybe than some of your peers who did not take those CTE programs, but you still want to take the full sequence of that college program. And like Hannah mentioned, her college wasn't able to she wasn't able to get out of some of her classes required for her degree, but she's now more prepared for those courses, and it's kind of like a refresher for her. Versus in this example that I provided with the culinary, you have that option. So say you don't want to go to culinary school, but you're graduating high school with those certificates already in hand, and you have that work experience already through your program. And I'm going to stay where I'm comfortable in, but I used to teach culinary arts for about 5 years at the high school. And I used to have my students do competitions. They used to do mock food truck competitions. They used to go to really high-end hotels and meet people and connect and work, right? And then we used to cater to prom. So all of these things, right? They're getting all of these hands-on learning experiences and creating their own menus, all before they graduate. And if they choose to just go into the workforce, right, they're career ready and they don't want to pursue a higher education certificate, which everybody has their option, you can make I've seen people turn into creating their own business. I've met a middle schooler who has a YouTube channel the other day with FCCLA. Like, there's so many opportunities that can come out of these CTE programs, because I do feel it does tailor a lot to what you're interested in. And as far as apprenticeships, as you mentioned, and internships, all of those are available through the program. That is part of our requirements at ADE, and through their Perkins monitoring, that they have those opportunities available. And again, working with our industry partners to assist in bringing in apprentices or interns, and all related into those content areas that they need. So there's countless amount of opportunities. I could give you examples for days. And as Hannah mentioned too, there's so many things, and it really does just kind of scratch the surface. But as you're moving into college, if you do choose to go into college, then again, you're just a lot more prepared. And some of the certificates and things that you might have to take while you're in a college course, you already have them. So you're kind of, you don't have to redo that part because you're already certified in those areas. So many opportunities, you guys, but I'll let Kevin kind of add on to there.
So, and I'm just going to echo a little bit what Kylie and Hannah had said, both of them. We've coined a phrase, it's a faster way forward. Hannah was talking about many certifications for which adults maybe don't even have, and that's the faster way forward. And so if there are students out there that know what they want to study in college, this is going to give them an opportunity to move a little bit quicker because they've gotten a head start. And that's that faster way forward. And then it's all about choice. With the more education and the more skills that you have, I'm a firm believer, the more choices that you have in life. And that's what CTE does, is it provides you with experiences in order to provide you with, to allow you with choices, to give you choices, whether it's participation in CTSO and you're competing, you have those leadership experiences, you have those. So between all of the programs with that CTE experience, which we call, it opens the door to so many different choices. And that's what CTE is about.
Thank you. Picking back off Kevin a little bit, I feel like many industries nowadays expect you to have many years of experience fresh out of high school or college. And I think it's super cool that CTE programs can give you that experience that may feel impossible for other people to get right off the get-go. All right. Now back to Anthony to finish off the questions.
Yes. Thank you. I thought those responses were really thoughtful, and I really liked how, Kevin, you ended up with talking about the options and choices that students are facing. And so I wanted to transition, and this is a question posed to all of our wonderful panelists. While recent reports state that there's an increase in high school graduates who report being open to options other than a four-year degree, many Americans default to a traditional four-year college as their post-secondary option. What other trends have you witnessed around CTE, and what do you believe is the factor, like in regards to their choices around the CTE programs? And then what's the biggest challenge CTE schools face, if you haven't mentioned it already?
Well, I'll go ahead and start. And one of the things that recently is that you hear all about the expense of the college tuition. And CTE provides an advantage of getting to a place within your career opportunities without having to incur a lot of that college tuition debt. There are advantages to CTE if you do go on to a post-secondary education. And one, again, is those dual credit opportunities. I was just answering a question that was on the chat saying that are there CTE college credits? Are there CTE programs for which students can earn a college credit? And many of those at that career and technical education districts, or those CTEDs like even, offer their programs at the community college, enabling those students to be able to get that college credit, and again, that faster way forward. So the other thing is that we're understanding, I guess, the advantages and the attractiveness of a skilled labor workforce. It used to be that students would need to be able to go on to college in order to be able to earn a certain income level or have a certain status or be able to go into a career for which they love. Well, those opportunities are ever present with career technical education too. So not necessarily as a college pathway the only pathway, but CTE again it offers those choices too. So and the advantage to that is that you could enter into a career opportunity, which is your wish, your dreams make your dreams come true, and you can do that in a different way, and that's what CTE does. And again, it offers those options.
Yeah, and again, with all the options, to go back to the questions too, is why maybe do people opt for more than a traditional four-year college than a vocational or a career and technical ed college? I do feel that again, just the understanding of career and technical ed, as Kevin mentioned earlier, just the notion around vocation and how it's really meant for the trades and all of those things, and just kind of the general concept in education and how families perceive different levels of higher education. Some don't understand or don't look at the trade colleges the same as a general university or college that goes through academics, right, and other types of credentialings, bachelor's, master's. But it is important to know it's just as equally as important, regardless of where you're going to college, as you're receiving some type of higher education. And for a student who's maybe interested in culinary but might just get an associate's in a baking and pastry, it's important to know and acknowledge that is a great starting point. And just to think about at the end of the day, regardless of the track that the student is in, if they're doing high school going into the career, if they're doing high school and they're going into the college and then the career, or if they do all of the above and just take a little bit more time, at the end of the day, everybody is getting the information that they want to be successful in that career path that they choose. And again, it's just being skilled. And so you have to go to the schools that offer those and focus on those skills. Just like if you were going to law school, you would go to, or studying law, you would go to a law school, right? And so for us, it's the career and technical ed colleges or the vocational colleges that have these career fields. But most college and universities, again, like early childhood education, Hannah's at NAU. So they it's a regular college in a four-year college, but they do have that CTE pathway embedded in there. So just understanding that it's a combination of both things. Some is not one or the other. And then again, that they are all equally important regardless of the track that you decide to go in.
Hannah, do you have anything to add to that?
I will say, I know, like, for me, I did choose to go to a four-year university, but I do know a lot of my friends that were CTE completers and other, like, aspects. So they did, oh my goodness, I'm blanking on the name. It was like wood shop. And so they
Carpentry.
decided to go to carpentry. That's what it is. Thank you. Carpentry. And then they decided to go to our community college that had a CTE program pathway, that they went in and got their AA in that instead, because they just didn't want to do a four-year university, or the four-year universities didn't offer a CTE pathway. NAU does offer that extension of a CTE pathway, but I will say I do think it's only early childhood education. I think there's a couple others, but I wouldn't be positive. But I do think, though, that had I not gone to a four-year university, I would have gone straight into probably getting an AA in early childhood education at my community college. Definitely would have been a lot cheaper. But I did also want that elementary education degree with it. So that's why I chose to go to a four-year university. But before I decided to go to NAU, I was thinking about going straight through a CTE dual enrollment aspect.
Thank you so much for all of those excellent responses. I think we are now going to transition to our Q&A portion. So effectively, we'll be reading out previous answers and responses to student questions. And then if there are any more questions posed by the attendees, we'll be sure to send those your way.
Thank you to the panelists for kind of already answering some of the questions. And here you'll have some time to elaborate a little bit more if you would like. So starting with the first question that we received, how do CTE courses compare to EVIT classes, and what are some advantages to CTE programs that EVIT doesn't necessarily have? And Kevin, would you like to answer that, or would you like me to just?
Sure, I can answer that. So EVIT is what's called a career and technical education district. So in fact, that's only the classes that they offer at EVIT are CTE classes. They don't offer the core academic subject classes, math, science, social studies, English. They only offer CTE programs and program classes. The traditional high schools may offer CTE classes, but they also offer those academic subjects as well. So there would be no difference between EVIT and those CTE classes because that's the only classes that they have.
So, an anonymous attendee asked, are TSAs multiple choice tests? Are there any practical portions to it depending on the specific course, i.e., a cooking practical for culinary? And then, Kylie, would you like to answer this question?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the TSA, that is multiple choice for every program. It is about 100 questions, multiple choice. And again, every program is required to, through those 2 years, to review the standards that are put in place for their program. Every program is different, and those standards were developed by our industry members that help support those programs, as well as input from teachers and input from other various people that understand the content in that. And so the TSA, again, we also work very strategically to create those technical assessments on our end with our teachers and with some other supporting industry members. But again, those get revamped every couple of years with the questions and then as well as the standards. But yes, it's 100 questions at the end of the program for every program, multiple choice. Practicals, things like that, the hands-on aspects of learning, you might get that like Hannah did with the CDA, as she's working with that, or if you're doing anything with culinary and getting hands-on, your CPR, you would have to do those and those credentials or those certificates, maybe auto shop, just showing and demonstrating your skills, cosmetology, if you're doing hair, you will have to do those in those credentialing aspects, but not on the TSA, just multiple choice.
Thank you for that clarification. And then for the sake of time, I saw that there were a bunch of new questions, so we'll move on to those rather than the previous ones. So starting with the first one, what partnerships exist between CTE programs and local industries to provide students with real-world experience and job opportunities? And anyone can jump in there.
I can say a lot. So I'm one of 7, and for myself, I have 6 different programs that I oversee, and I have about 12 members per program from industry that are reflecting. And so again, I work with a Michelin star chef for culinary. I work with one of the hotels for my hospitality. I work with a new organization called Breville Surf Park, also for hospitality. And so we do all of these different collaboration efforts in early childhood education. I'll work with some local early childhood facilities that are not inside of the school, right? So we all in our different career clusters and on my team and on Kevin's team as well, with those that are a little bit more higher than what we're doing, but we collaborate very hard and very strategically with industry partners to be sure that the students have the support and we have the up-to-date industry demand and the needs reflected in these programs.
Thank you. Another question that we have from the new ones that they're just flooding in right now is that what would you recommend to do if my school does not offer the CTE program that I'm interested in?
Sure. I would, Kevin, we will probably go back and forth, but I would say, well, Arizona is school choice. So if you are a student who, has transportation, or sometimes schools work with different areas for transportation needs. But if you say you want to do hospitality, but it's not available at my neighborhood high school, you can apply for open enrollment at different high schools to enroll in these programs. Everybody's a little bit different, and it's not everything everything is not offered at every school. As you saw, there's a lot of programs, but you can do school choice if you need to. Yes.
Great. And then perhaps to Hannah, can you discuss the earning potential and long-term career prospects for individuals who graduate from CTE programs compared to those with traditional college degrees?
Yes, I can. So I definitely will share more of a personal story that happened to me my first semester of college. There was me and another girl, and we were working on a project together, and it was a lot of new content, a lot of new early childhood concepts that were not very new to me, but very new to the person I was working with. And I did notice that throughout the time that we were working on the project together, she was very lost. Now, sometimes lectures are not always the best for everyone because it is a lot of talking and they're talking right at you, and there's not so much hands-on, whereas in early childhood there is a lot of hands-on. But I did notice that as we were working together there was a lot of content that she definitely you kind of it benefited you more to know about it prior to learning this content. And I do remember her telling me, like, how do you know all this? Like, we just learned this, like we haven't even learned this yet. And I was like, oh, I was in the CTE when I was in high school. But I do also know a lot of other like peers of mine that have said that when they've gone to colleges and they've worked on certain things that were related more to their CTE, such as culinary, that they said, like we said earlier, they did really have an edge up, and that they didn't fall behind in a lot of the more advanced concepts, because when you do get to college, they do definitely don't take it slow. They expect you to know a lot right going into it. And I will say, when you have that CTE background, you definitely are not as confused and not as overwhelmed in the beginning.
So we have someone saying that they are being told that a student cannot be at a CTE campus and receive dual enrollment with the community college at the same time to exit the program and receive a college certificate. So what would be the actual situation and the correct answer to whether that can be done or not?
That's a little situational, unique situation, probably to the CTED or the Career Technical Education District. There are 14 CTEDs around the state of Arizona, so it stretches out from one corner of the state to the other. And each one of them operate a little bit differently. Some of those CTEDs, smaller ones in the rural areas, the only programs that students can take at those campuses are offered at the community college. And so they do earn a dual credit. Now, there may be some circumstances where there's a CTED for which students are participating at a central campus and are not eligible to receive a community college certification. That would be a unique situation for that CTED. There are some, and it's program specific to that as well. So there are some programs at some CTEDs, at the same CTED, that would earn some community college certification because the community college offers that. And then there are some that don't offer that community college certification because they haven't worked out what's called the intergovernmental agreement. So they're very unique. And I could not speak to that situation without more details in specifics, but it's a unique situation to each one of these locations for which the student is attending.
All right. And then next one, how do you decide if a certain student organization, such as HOSA or DECA, is considered a CTSO? And is there any benefit to that specific title?
I can take this one, Kevin. So our CTSOs are aligned with the national CTSO organization. So we kind of want to stay, well, not kind of, we want to stay in line with the national level and represent the CTSOs that are registered on a national level. So then that our students can therefore participate at a national level in competitions. And so the the CTSOs that I shared earlier, the 6 different ones we have here in Arizona are nationally recognized CTSOs. And then they do align to specific career clusters. So again, some programs can have multiple options. Like for me, hospitality management, they can do DECA or FCCLA because they have the content represented in both of those CTSOs. So again, it's just really kind of really representing the industry itself, and then if the competitions and the leadership aligns with that industry, we'll connect those CTSOs with those programs. And every program through the state has an assigned CTSO or two specific to their program standards.
And I would love to jump in on the benefits of CTSO. FCCLA was not on that question. However, that was something that completely changed my life and what I do now after graduating high school. When I was in FCCLA, the first 2 years I was just a chapter officer, and then I got involved at the state level. But because it is a national organization, I was very fortunate to run for a national officer position where I got the unique opportunity to speak in front of like 8,000 people, which was definitely something that I would never have done had I not been in that CTSO. But after my time in that CTSO, I was asked to come back post high school graduation and work with the state officer team. So this past year at the state leadership conference, I got to work really close with the state officer team. We got to present workshops, and we got to talk with advisors all across the state, which was definitely something that was very unique to being a part of that CTSO that I wouldn't have gotten to do had I not been in FCCLA. And it's given me a lot of opportunities to work with high school students still. So I worked with the local FCCLA chapter here in Flagstaff during competition season, and that was a really fun and unique opportunity that I got to do without already being an FCS teacher or an advisor already. So I always promote CTSOs. I know that they're amazing. I've gotten to work with some FBLA state officers and HOSA officers in the past, and they're incredible. So every CTSO is amazing, and you definitely cannot go wrong with any of them. So even those ones that have the multiple ones that you can be a part of, it doesn't really matter which one you choose because there's countless opportunities in all of them through in like every different way.
And I also want to add too to that CTSOs are also available in some of them middle school all the way up to freshman college, freshman or sophomore year of college. There's an age gap, of course, but you are available too as an adult to take participate in a CTSO. So again, it is very prevalent at the high schools.
Thank you so much. We are just out of time now. And so thank you so much for everyone who joined the webinar today. And that please remember that your presence here today and the knowledge you gain from our county partners can significantly impact our communities through cross-sector, multi-agency initiatives that are data-driven and solution-focused. We continue to break down barriers, providing critical resources and services to those who need them most, and are working to create an Arizona for everyone. We have the contact information, or we are posting the contact information for all of our wonderful panelists into the chat. And so if we didn't get to your question, we really do apologize. But you can definitely email them, and I assure they'll probably be more than happy to answer any of your questions. And so I wanted to thank our panelists for spending the time to be here today, and thank you, the attendees, for coming, and that you hope all of you have an excellent Sunday. Thank you so much.